Welcome back to Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Mead, and joining me as always, he skippered Hitler's catamaran during the war, my brother Mike.
And let me tell you, that guy always smells like he's got a load in his trousers, okay? We wonder why he was so angry all the time. But, from what I've heard, fascism and dumping in your pants, they go like hand in hand.
Hand in hand. I mean, that's a story as old as time, I think. I think we know that those great fascists of the world, they have the continence issues. We know that's the case. And so, not surprising considering all the stress they're under, but it's one of those things. On this week's episode of Royals Weekly, a baseball podcast about the Kansas City Royals, we're going to go ahead and
time out, pause. We got to go back because I wanted to say something about that.
Okay,
that joke.
Go for it. Keep going.
I want our listeners to comment if you actually understand where that reference is from. Yes. If you know where that reference is from, because you drop a Hitler reference in your opening joke, you better have some depth behind it. Okay. There is a deep cut reference. And if you understand it, I want you to comment on our social media or underneath this post on wherever YouTube, you watch it, find it, or listen to it, because I want to know how old our audience is. And that will automatically tell me.
Yes. That is
if you get it, to a movie. You are telling me how old you are.
Yes. And so, yes, if you get that reference, make sure you leave a comment of some sort somewhere. I promise I'm not just obsessed with Hitler in some way. It is a joke that it references. It's an homage to a joke from a movie that Mike and I are both familiar with. So make sure you let us know if you too are a fan of this film. We will love to interact with you online. But as I was saying, before Mike rudely interrupted me, we are going to talk about baseball during this episode. I promise. We're going to review another winning week from Royals baseball, which is great. That's 2 winning weeks in a row. We're going to discuss the Royals bullpen and its prospects as for the near future as they sort of continue to try and hold on to leads. And then we're going to preview this week's game. All these games. The Royals just wrapped up a game 1 of the Cleveland series. We are coming to you a day late, later than normal anyway. So this will air on Tuesday, May 5th. But yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about last week's games and then maybe touch on this game 1 of this Cleveland series as well. A reminder that if you want more content from us on a weekly basis, go ahead and subscribe to that Royals Weekly Substack, royalsweekly.substack.com, $5 a month, not very expensive. It gets you 2 extra episodes every week, one from both Mike and I, one from Mike alone on Fridays, and an article every week from us. I come out with on Sundays, sort of discussing a couple deep dive things that I've picked up on in the week. It's a lot of extra content. It's wonderful. We're going to start writing even more stuff probably when school gets out. And so, yeah, if you're interested in more content, if you want to hear more about the Royals, especially as they get to winning like they have been lately, $5 a month, royalsweekly.substack.com, worth every penny. Everybody who's over there seems to love it. Great interaction in the comment sections and stuff. So make sure you're subscribing if you're interested in that. Also, feel free to rate and review us everywhere you go. We've read some Apple Podcast reviews on the episodes the last few weeks. I'm going to read some YouTube comments. You can leave those Apple review for us, or Apple Podcast reviews, and we'll read them right here on the episode. Leave some YouTube comments. I sometimes read those. I'm going to read a couple right now. Actually, they're so interesting. Somebody on last week's episode said, this is from KC Core 24. I live for new episodes. I wish they came daily. Thank you guys for your takes on them. And I'm like, daily, that's a little much. Although I guess if you subscribe to the Substack, we're creeping up on daily. I mean, it's getting more and more all the time. And so if you're interested in those content, go ahead and subscribe there. Thank you, KC Core 24, for leaving that comment. We really appreciate it. And then Panicked Peter, which is, I feel like, a great name for a Royals fan, because Royals
or like a punk band.
Or a punk band. That's a good one there too. Said, love the pod, ! I enjoy the Just Outside segment, which is great because we love positive feedback on that Just a Bit Outside segment. It's our favorite thing. We like doing it every week. It's funny to see what we come up with. So thank you so much, Panicked Peter. We really appreciate it. Leave those comments under the YouTube videos. Leave those Apple Podcast review. We really appreciate all the help and support that you all give us. We can't thank you enough for it. We'll start the review of last week with roster news. There was just a bit of it, not too much, affecting the bullpen mainly. Luinder Avila was called up, and Eli Morgan was optioned to AAA. So swapping out a couple of relief pitchers to get some fresh arms up to the major leagues. Mike, what are your thoughts about Avila coming up to the major leagues before that West Coast road trip, and Morgan getting sent back to Omaha?
Yeah, it really just tracks. It's something you and I had already previewed and talked about happening. We assumed it would happen at some point. I don't know if Eli Morgan has the repertoire to hang in Major League Baseball. I think he'll always be like a fringe major leaguer and has been for most of his career. He's not a young player by any means. But I'm ready to see Avila in the pen for an extended period of time. I think one of the appearances that we've seen from him since he came back up was really good, and one was kind of okay. And so I want to, can he be a stabilizing factor to a bullpen that's really seeking that? And can he be a guy who can get a strikeout for a bullpen that's really in need of that now as well? And so I think Avila to the pen is a really good move for this year. I don't think it eliminates him from being a starter down the road if they still want to try that. But if this team wants to be in contention, Luinder Avila probably has to be a part of this bullpen.
Yeah, that makes sense to me a lot. I think now that he's up here, he's got to be up here because we've seen some of the issues that they're having in the pen, and Avila provides some things for them that they need. They need the swing and miss. They need the strikeouts. They don't love how many guys he walks, I'm sure, and we're going to talk more about the bullpen in our spotlight segment, but he has the stuff. He's got stuff for days, and their bullpen really kind of needs that swing and miss because it's not something every one of the guys coming out of that pen has. It's not something you really associate with John Schreiber. It's not something you really associate with even
Daniel Lynch,
Lucas Erceg at time. Well, Lynch has been better at that this year. His K rate's over 30%. And so he's been quite good with the strikeout this year. But even guys like Nick Mears, Lang, you don't necessarily.
Lang's got decent strikeout numbers. The problem is it comes with so many walks.
Yeah, and that's a problem, right? Like Erceg has trouble getting strikeouts at times, though he's been on a hot streak lately. Estevez is set to come back. We don't know what that's going to look like. Strom has had some difficulty getting swing and miss. And so he has some stuff, especially that big curveball, that they could be a really useful addition to this bullpen. And frankly, Eli Morgan, I agree with you. I don't know that his stuff is permanent MLB fixture. I think he's fine as an up and down guy. That's what he kind of is. He should be a guy who's stashed in your AAA bullpen and comes up and helps out when somebody goes down or when you need a, can he go out and give you some clean outings? Yeah. But he's not going to give you enough consistency out of that pen to warrant a permanent place in it, I don't think. And so, yeah, fine that he's going up and down. I like to see Avila up. And I'm with you. I don't want them to send him back to AAA just to work as a starter. He's got to be in this pen moving forward.
One thing I do want to add on top of the Avila news is that I don't think we've covered is just so our listeners are aware of the organization throughout. Ryan Bergert and Ben Caderna have both had. Oh, did we talk about that?
Oh, no. We talked about it at first when the news first broke. I think we were worried that what would happen, that what has happened would happen. But yes, go ahead with your news.
Just both have had season-ending surgery. For Bergert, it was Tommy John, I believe. And for Caderna, it was something I'd never heard of before.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
A stress fracture in his elbow. That's what it was. It was some sort of weird stress fracture in his elbow. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That's a weird one. Well,
it is. It's weird.
But the way they described the surgery, I thought was odd when I read about it. I was like, that's not something you hear from guys all the time. But yeah, that's just something. They're not going to be the depth that we had hoped that they would be moving forward. So, we still have Kolek, and you still have maybe Sarantola or some other guys that are possibilities down there in the pen, but that's not something you want to see. Now your hope is that maybe
he has I'm going to try my best to pronounce this. Olecranon stress fracture repair to his elbow. That's the surgery he had. Okay. He had an olecranon. Mike, I just can't even. Olecranon.
Like I said, when I read it the first time, I'm like, I have never heard of that.
Never heard that term before. Been doing a lot of sports related stuff for a long time. Never heard that one. But yeah, basically stress fracture of some sort in his elbow. And so he's out for the season. So is Ryan Bergert. On the field last week, started out a little bit shaky, but it ended on a real high note. The Royals went 4-2 on that West Coast road trip. That brings their overall record to 15-19 coming into today. Added a win today in the Cleveland series. So now they are 16-19 and moved a game closer to Cleveland, who was in the top of the AL Central. We'll see on that. But the Royals dropped 2 of 3 to the A's to start that West Coast road trip. Had Royals fans feeling a little bit morose, a little uneasy after the high of sweeping the Angels. But then they snatched that high right back with a 3-game sweep of the Mariners in Seattle that felt oh so good. I rewatched condensed versions of each one of those games multiple times. We saw timely hitting, we saw good pitching, and even some production from the middle of the lineup. Mike, how do you feel about last week and what the Royals are up to right now?
I don't feel bad. I feel it's not coming as quickly as I would have hoped. We were kind of hoping the team would look like hit the ground running when they first opened up the year, and that just wasn't the case. But Seattle's a solid team with good pitching, a good starting rotation. I went through it in the Mike's Dropped episode for the Substack subscribers this week. You're talking about, you went up against two guys who are having really good years in Brian Wu and Emerson Hancock. And then a guy who in the past has been very strong and been very difficult for you to go against in Luis Garcia, even when he was with Minnesota. And so, yes, he's getting older, and yes, he's having a down year so far, but you go out and you get wins against those three guys. That's something. Your offense still seems a little bit sluggish. I don't think anybody feels real secure in how the offense is doing right now. But as you see Vinny Pasquantino start to contribute a little more, Salvador Perez contribute a little bit more, as you see Bobby Witt Jr. start to tap into a little bit of the power, you're getting now, even though it's not maybe where you want it to be with Isaac Collins, you're getting contributions from Isaac Collins. Those things, I think, are going to round out the offense a little bit more. It gives you a little bit of hope moving forward. And then you see it tonight in the Cleveland game as well. You see him put up 6 runs. You get power contributions from a couple different guys. It really looked like a well-rounded offense tonight and in that Seattle series.
Yes, and I want to talk about this because I know we're going to probably talk about it again on the midweek episode, but I want to talk about this because I was very impressed with what the offense did today, especially in that 4th inning where they got 4 runs. They showed, I think it was the 4th. They showed what it means for a team, an offense, to put pressure on the opposing defense just with good plate appearances. So you see Lane Thomas take a walk to load the bases with nobody out, and he fights back from 0-2. Really good plate appearance, stays patient, ends up loading the bases with the walk. Jack strikes out, Isaac Collins strikes out. You don't love to see that. But then Nick Lofton comes up, another guy with a really good approach, gets up 2-0, takes a strike, 2-1, and then he hits a nice hard ground ball through the infield. Now, Lofton's best chance is always a line drive or a ground ball. Fly balls do nothing for him, but he comes up clutch with this because he put himself in a good position to get his A swing off by being ahead in the count. And that's really, really important. You could tell that Bybee was a little stressed by the fact that he'd already given up 2 runs.
Remember, this bases loaded was after the 2 runs had been scored.
After the 2 runs, because Bobby Witt Jr. hits that home run, and then defensive mistake, sort of. That really tough ball for Travis Bazzana that goes right over the bag. I actually think it landed. I think it bounced, nicked the top of the bag, and just kept going straight. It didn't bounce up like you expect, but you could tell he wasn't sure what that ball was going to do, and it got under his glove. That ends up scoring another run. So they're 2-0, and then the bases are loaded and nobody out. They kept having good plate appearances, putting the pressure on Bybee, and he folded under that pressure, honestly. Like, really bad couldn't put Lane Thomas away. And then just to go down 2-0 to the 9-hitter in Nick Lofton is certainly not what he wanted to do. But he felt all this pressure from, the fact that they were putting pressure on him with good plate appearances. And that's just something that I love to see in this Cleveland series. If they can keep doing that, this offense really has a future, and that means this team has a future. As for last week, any winning week is a good week, of course, right? Like, you'll love to go 4-2. The A's, after coming out of that series, they don't feel great about the way they lost a game or 2 there, I'm sure. But you're right. Seattle is a good team. They're a solid team. They went to the ALCS last year, right? Like, they're good. Okay. And so great to get a sweep of them. Great to win that Emerson Hancock start, especially because it shows that, like, hey,
he was good.
He was good. He was very good. And they're still able to scratch 3 runs across in that game and give themselves a chance to win. And their starting pitching keeps them in it. And it was a really sort of team performance that allowed them to win that game. Because it can't just be, we're going to go out and score 6 and 7 every game. We know they're not going to do that. And so sometimes you got to win those close ones against those really tough pitchers as well. Great to see them go out and do that against a guy who's having a career year in Seattle right now. Mike, we mentioned some guys just started turning it on this week. Our strong performers are 2 guys who really needed to turn it on this week. Who's your strong performer for this week?
I'm going with Cappy, Salvador Perez here. El Capitan went 7 for 24. Scored 4 runs. We saw him scoot around them bases some this week. 2 doubles, a home run, 4 RBI, no walks, nothing shocking in that front, and 4 strikeouts. So Salvador Perez, if this team's going, we know that he's not going to be a consistent offensive player. It will never happen. He's too old to change that at this point. But when he gives you something, you can be a pretty strong offense. Now, you and I have both argued that probably means he should not be hitting in the lineup where he is. And I still think that. But when good Salvador Perez is going, he's good. And it's really, really a boost to this lineup when he is hitting for extra bases like he did this week. I mean, he had 3 extra base hits. The weird thing is you can tell when he's going to start getting on one of these when he's not hitting extra base hits. That's kind of the sign. The sign is he ends up hitting a single up the middle, like a line drive. He hits a hard line drive to right. And then it's like, okay, now his timing is good. He starts pulling the ball and taking it out and hitting doubles. You can always tell from the singles that he gets when he's about to get hot. And so I feel like we got another week or 2 or 3 of this hot Salvador Perez before we get into another trough. And then we'll see how it goes. Or maybe that doesn't happen because he's not catching as much. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'll be interested to see that. They need that offense from him. It's more important. I know his defense has been really good this year, but to a large degree, his offensive contribution is more important to this team than his defensive contribution. He's been good, and like you said, when he's good, he's fine. If he's the only one who's in a trough, who's in like a dark place offensively, they can live with that. But if he and Vinny Pasquantino are struggling, they're sunk, right? You can't have 3 and 4 in your lineup be terrible, like absolutely awful. And Vinny Pasquantino also turned it around this week. He's my strong performer for the week. He went 6 for 17, 1 double, 1 home run, 2 RBI, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. We're seeing his timing come down or like lock in. He had at least a double. Did he have a single tonight too? I can't remember. He had at least a double tonight.
Stole a base. I know that.
Stole a base. Oh, so he must have gotten on some other way because he stole.
Yeah, I can't remember if he walked or got a single on that one. I can't remember. But
I can't remember either.
I got cramped when I saw him take off. I was like, uh-oh.
Real rare occurrence for him. In fact, he almost got thrown out at a second from the ball off the wall. He hit a ball off the wall,
yeah.
Almost went out, really close to going out, but almost got gunned at second because that's how slow he is, and he hit the ball pretty hard. But yeah, he has to hit for them in the middle. He's got to be their run producer. That's what he is paid to do, right? Like without him producing the runs in the middle of the lineup, and then without Salvi behind him coming through, you have just 2 spots in the lineup that are continually throwing away scoring opportunities. The last week, that has not been the case, and they've been scoring 6-7 runs a game in a lot of these. And so if those 2 can stay hot, or if at least one of them can stay hot at all times, this offense really has a chance, because you can't live with what we saw from them in the first 3 weeks. Mike, not everybody was super hot last week, despite the positive outcome. Who was your week performer for last week?
I went with Carter Jensen, just because you and I have been talking about him as the guy who kind of was the only reason the offense was scoring there for a stretch. I mean, he was the only guy doing anything outside of Kyle Isbell. And so it was like, okay, we really need Carter Jensen to be a driving force for this thing. Well, now that we've seen Bobby Witt Jr. pick it up and Salvador Perez and Vinny Pasquantino, Carter Jensen in the last week kind of took a step back. Just 1 for 18, no extra base hits in that stretch, 1 RBI, 3 walks. You still see that good approach, but 9 strikeouts is a little high for him for a week. And so not great. He did hit a double tonight, which is great. He did score a run after that as well. So, I'm not ever worried about extended periods for him going that poorly, because the approach is as good as it is, or is as advanced as it is. But if we're going to maximize the ability of this offense, Carter Jensen has to be a part of it.
Yeah, very important part. And I wonder to what degree if his increase in catching load has been a little bit of a detractor from his offense. We've seen him have to catch a lot more lately. And is he looking a little tired? Is he looking like maybe, because it's tough. It is really, really tough to catch all as much as he's been catching, and he's doing it on a West Coast swing lot of travel for him, a lot of being in pitchers meetings.
So that means you're doing double duty when you're catching, because you're in all the pitchers meetings. So you have to do all of that.
You're into the hitters meetings. You got to take batting practice. You have a lot to do as a catcher. And so that can really take its toll. I wanted to see, do you know what he did today? Because I thought he had a
1 for 4 with a double.
Today. 1 for 4 with a double for him. Did he have a walk too? No walks tonight, but he did have a couple walks yesterday, I believe. And so, hopefully that's a sign that he might be turning some things around. Had a big double. I think did it score a run today? I thought it might have.
He scored a run. That was the one that was reviewed. Remember? It was reviewed. He was the guy who they had their review at home. They called him out, but then they reversed it.
Yes, he hit the double. He was reviewed at home. He scored a run. His double did not score a run because it had Salvi on front of him. And Salvi can't run first to third in any situation, really. My week performer for last week, it has a very similar stat line. It's Michael Massey. Struggled mightily at the plate. Also, when he was called upon to maybe take on more responsibility, Jonathan India went down. They're kind of calling on Massey to play quite a bit more at second base. He went 1 for 18 last week, 0 extra base hits, 1 RBI, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. Massey's a guy who I don't know if you love the notion of him in there every day at second base. And I wonder if they're going to start leaning on Nick Lofton more to essentially just take over the Jonathan India role, where at the very least Lofton gets a lot of all the at-bats against lefties and Massey gets most of the ones against righties. We saw Lofton in there today against a righty. He seemed to have a pretty good day, at least went 1 for whatever he at least had 1 hit with a couple of RBIs. And so, they like to see that sort of thing. And, you're going to get way more patience at the plate. Probably a much higher walk rate from Nick Lofton. And so rough week for Massey last week. I think he'll be ultimately what he is and be fine, but he needs to start showing us that he can be a little bit more productive offensively, because if he wants starter-like playing time. Mike, it was a positive week, so we're probably got to keep it positive here. What are you going for a theme?
I kind of went outside of what we normally do here. I just went with a quote from a guy I had never heard of.
Oh, okay.
I've heard the quote before. I didn't know who said it. So I went and looked it up and said, okay, who's this? The quote here, which is my theme, is you got to be good before you can be great. I'd always heard like coaches and things say that. Turns out this guy was a coach originally. He's probably not a very good person. His name's Art Williams. He's now he also founded and is the CEO of an insurance company. So he's probably a terrible human being.
Well, we know that he's no good then. Don't even get me started, Mike. You're poking the bear right now.
I do ascribe to the idea that teams have to learn how to be good before they can learn how to be great. And that sounds like coach speak, and I was a coach for a very long time, but I never focused on the things that even make a team great. Even when I had great teams, I never focused on those things. I always focused on things that make teams good, because a lot of times the things that make you great are somewhat out of your control. Do you have great players? Well, sometimes that's out of your control in some extent, but the things that make you good are not making mistakes, not, knowing the small areas where you can gain value and doing those things. Paying attention to details. A right process tends to make you good. And then it's those kind of extra things. And you can do things as a coach too, to make your team great. It can be done, but usually you're so heavily focused on, let's be good. Okay, let's figure out a way to be good, and then we'll take those steps if we can to be great. Okay, that's when, you get, as a football coach, that was when you were like, okay, my team is good. Now I can develop a package offensively that we wouldn't be able to even do, but these kids know what they're doing. They've got the process down. Now we can do this something special that can take us to another level on offense, or something to that nature. And I feel like the Royals are working at being good right now. And when you're working at being good, you see the results like we've seen in the last couple of weeks.
Mike, small anecdote. You know how we love to use that saying, the little things are the big things?
Oh, yeah.
I was in a meeting tonight with the undergraduate research journal group at UMKC, who I'm the faculty advisor for. And I used that quote. And I saw one of the people in the meeting visibly, exaggeratedly roll her eyes at it. And I'm like, oh, come on. I'm telling you, I'm trying to pass on wisdom here.
Right. The little things are the big things, people.
Are the big things.
Don't get thrown out on the bases.
No. I'm going with something a little more. The populace is going to know this one. This one's it's a rousing.
This is a crowd pleaser.
It's a crowd pleaser. It's a rouser. It's just one of the most inspirational speeches you'll ever hear. This comes from John Belushi's character, Bluto. He's Bluto, yeah. Mm-hmm. Bluto in Animal House, and I'm sure you know it. And I'm just going to give his part of it. Somebody has like a line in the middle of this, but I really like just his part of it. I think it's hilarious in its own right. And it just goes, was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no. And it ain't over now. That's what I think of when the Royals are back in it, baby. It wasn't over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor, and it ain't over now. Mike, what household chores do you refuse to do yourself?
Window cleaning, pressure washing, and most importantly, gutter cleaning.
And why is that?
Frankly, I get a little overzealous with the power washer, and I ended up cutting my deck in half. My deck is just like 4 twigs standing on a toothpick right now.
Yeah, we've all been there. You get that pressure washer in your hands. You feel like God.
See, this is fun.
Yeah. If you're wise like Mike, reach out to the professionals at Window Wolf and save your deck or anywhere else in your house. Call them for all your window cleaning, gutter cleaning, and pressure washing needs. Window Wolf is a locally operated small business with all the professional know-how to keep your feet on the ground and your house or business shining bright. I've known the owner of Window Wolf for years, and I can tell you there's no one more reliable for high-quality service. Plus, Window Wolf is revolutionizing home maintenance with their new instant price calculator, which gives you a free quote without a home visit or entering a bunch of your personal information. Window Wolf is making the process easy and the price affordable. And for a limited time only, you can get 50% off when you book using their instant price calculator. Just visit windowwolf.com. That's windowwolf.com and use the code Royals50. That's Royals50, no spaces, when using that instant price calculator and save big bucks on quality service.
Use the savings to buy some gas. 50% off should get you a gallon or two at today's prices, but you better hurry on that one.
Better hurry or just getting a gallon. And that's it. Be smart. Let the pack handle your pains with Window Wolf. I want you to plant a date in your minds, Weekly Weirdos. April 21st. If the Royals turn this season around, and that's still an if, even though they won today and they look like they're back in it, we'll look to April 21st as the day that things shifted with a win in the Baltimore series. The offense started scoring that series, and just as important, the bullpen stopped blowing every opportunity to hold a lead. Some numbers, we need to concretize this idea. Before April 21st, Royals relievers had a 6.37 ERA, a 5.40 fielding independent pitching, a 13.8% walk rate, and a 22% strikeout rate. But since that magical day of April 21st, things have started to turn around for the boys in the pen. In those 41 and a thirds innings pitched since that time, the bullpen has a 3.05 ERA, a 3.99 fielding independent pitching, a 12.6 walk rate, and a 24% strikeout rate. Also important, they're allowing about half as many home runs per fly ball since April 21st. Mike, how has this bullpen managed to turn the tide a bit?
I'm going to tell you in 2 steps. Step 1, play worse teams.
That helps. That always helps.
The teams we played in these last couple of weeks, the Angels, A's, now Mariners, they, not that they're atrocious bottom of the league teams or anything, but they're not the Yankees and the Brewers, and so that's helped. The other 2, have a guy or 2 step up that's been better. You mentioned Daniel Lynch has been better. Lucas Ursig has been better over the last couple of weeks. Mason Black, he hasn't been pitching a ton, but when he's in there, he hasn't allowed a run yet. A lot of these guys, Matt Strahm has looked a lot better, pitched a good inning, or did he do both? Did he do the 9th as well tonight? I can't remember. But those guys that you're kind of counting on now, for me, does that solidify it? No, but we needed those guys to be contributors. We needed to be able to turn it over. I don't think you're ever going to want to be like, hey, I want Daniel Lynch consistently pitching the 7th or 8th inning for this team. I don't think you want that. I know I don't want that. Okay. I know he's looked better. I know he's been, good. I still don't trust it. Okay. But Is Daniel Lynch going to have to be a contributing member to this bullpen? Yes, he will be. He has to be that. They need that, especially since he's left-handed. So you're going to have to find guys that you can count on. And right now we're starting to separate those guys. You know, those guys are saying, yes, we can be counted on. Whereas guys like Eli Morgan, that's why he got sent down, and Alex Lang so far are saying something different.
Yeah, I think that is part. They are finding out like who right now is a guy who can really contribute, who can really count on. That's why Lynch is getting more high leverage innings. You strike out people at over a 30% clip. You keep your walks really low. I mean, he's got a really low walk rate as well. You do those sorts of things with increased velocity and all the stuff looking good, you're going to get more high leverage innings. You know, you pitch as well as Mason Black has, he might get some more important opportunities too. You pitch as well as Lucas Ursig, we feel a little better about you in the ninth lately, right? Like, and I think that's a big key. I think Ursig finding velocity, because it seems like in the last 4 or 5 outings for him, his fastball has been harder, right? He's been throwing some 98s and 99s in there, which looked like maybe it had gone away for him. And, you know, the fact that he can throw it a bit harder now is getting him some more swing and miss. It's allowing him to get some more strikeouts. What did he get in that final game of the Seattle? I think he had an inning pitched, struck out 2 guys, really shut the door on him. Oh, shut the door in the 10th too, which was tough because they started with a runner on second, right? And he still shut the door and got them that last win. And so it's stuff like that really matters for Ursig. Yeah.
Real quick for him, just to highlight your point there, in the last 2 weeks for him, 8 strikeouts in 7 innings. Now he's had too many walks still, but when he's striking guys out, and that 98, 99, that's what we saw when he was the closer for this team when we first got him. We saw that 98 and 99 mile an hour fastball that could get some swing and miss, even though it's not an elite fastball shape wise.
Well, it does 2 things, right? It gets him some more swing and miss at 98, 99.
And it makes also the changeup.
It makes the changeup and the slider a lot harder to hit, right? Because they're geared up for that fastball, trying to at least make contact with 98, 99. And that makes it a lot harder for them to sit on a slider or sit on a changeup if they're a lefty, right? Like, and so, yeah, that pitch is a real key for him. If that velocity is higher, he is a much more effective reliever, and he's shown that over that last, what would you say, 8 innings, 7 innings, something like that?
7 innings, yeah.
Yeah, just getting more strikeouts. That's been a real key to their bullpen finding more success, I think. Like with this group of relievers, just the ones that they have now, can they continue to improve as a bullpen, or are they showing us their ceiling right now?
I think there's still room for improvement with just the guys that they have. But I do think their ceiling as a bullpen with just the guys they have now is not very high. No, that's no slag on the guys who are there or any diss to them. I think Lucas Ursig, when he's at his best, does have the stuff to be a closer in Major League Baseball. But tell me another guy in that pen that has that kind of ability to be a back end guy. Now, Matt Strahm has been very good and has done that stuff in the past. But Matt Strahm's 34, 35, 36. He's an old guy. I don't know that he's the kind of guy that you say, okay, that's a back of the bullpen kind of guy on a team with a really good bullpen, And then the rest of those guys, I think, are more like, John Schreiber, I feel like, is a guy that a lot of teams would like to have in their bullpen just because of the ground ball ability and his ability to get swing and miss, especially against righties. But a lot of these guys are guys that are more like generic middle relievers where you don't have clearly defined role for them in a bullpen can be difficult to find. I think Nick Mears is a guy like that. I think even Daniel Lynch is a guy like that, even though he's left-handed. And that's what kind of makes me like, okay, yes, useful pieces in a bullpen, but not somebody you're going, okay, I can stick him in the 8th inning and I feel very comfortable. We don't have a lot of that. And so I do think the ceiling is capped, but there's still room for growth and improvement. I think that'll come from Ursig getting more comfortable there. You deciding, even if Strahm's not a great option in the 8th, that's your guy. He knows that role. He's definitely the one you feel most comfortable with in that role.
And then figuring out that's where they're at right now because Strahm pitched the 8th tonight. I think I don't know.
It's what you have to do. But it's kind of what you have to do. And then you use Daniel Lynch kind of in situations in the 6th or 7th that are most advantageous for him.
Yeah, I think I said earlier that Ursig pitched the last game of that Seattle series. I don't think he did. I think he pitched the second game, that Emerson Hancock game that they ended up pulling out in extra innings. But anyway, I think you're basically right. But I actually think this is their ceiling for the guys that they currently have on the roster. I think Ursig pitching well sometimes, most of the time maybe, but then he'll occasionally, I bet, have an outing that we don't really feel comfortable with. I think that this is basically who they are. And it's you're right. It's because they have a lot of guys who are quality middle relievers, but who aren't back end guys, who aren't guys you feel like are shut the door, dominant back end relievers, right? They don't have any of those other than maybe Lucas Ursig, and Ursig is there like 80% of the time, 75% of the time, not 100% of the time. And so I think that the ceiling might actually be where they're at, and that was kind of their plan. I don't feel like they ever were like, hey, we're going out to like bring in a bunch of guys who can be elite dominant back end guys for us, because they don't want to spend the money on that. They gave Ursig $11 million, or not Ursig. They gave Estevez $11 million a year already. They're not sinking more resources into their bullpen. Like, they're happy bringing in the Nick Mirrorses and the Alex Langs and the Mason Blacks of the world and saying, we're going to have an effective bullpen with depth, not so much with extreme back end talent. And then if we need to add that back end talent, say at the deadline, we can try and do something like that, because I don't think they're that concerned with having an elite closer or something like that, at least for a 162 game season. I think they'd much rather have quality up and down the bullpen, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Real quick question for you though on that. How exciting would it be if they did get that kind of guy? And how transformational could it be? The other thing to consider in this is, do you think at any point we could see Luinder Avila work his way into a spot where he's kind of the second eighth inning guy? If Strom can't go, or maybe it's a better matchup, you put Luinder, because remember, we saw Kelvin Herrera do that. We saw him go from like a guy who was more of a sixth or seventh inning guy who threw hard, but he didn't always know where it was going. But once he figured out like that, the changeup, and started throwing it more and figured out, hey, I can also throw a little bit of a slider. You know, it's my third pitch, but I can mix it in there, and really learned how to pitch better out of the pen, especially. Then he kind of took off, and he became that guy. Do you think Luinder Avila can get to that place during this season?
I don't know about during this season. I think he can get, yes. The answer is yes, in terms of like, could he? Yes. Is it likely? I don't know. I think because of the command issues, the walk issues, that there will always be an issue there, at least within the small time frame of this season. He might eventually figure out how to throw more strikes, in which case he has a better chance to sort of be that kind of guy. But you watch him letting that fastball eat in the bullpen makes him a different pitcher. Like, it just does. He's a different pitcher.
He's throwing
when
98.
He can throw his fastball 98 miles an hour. That's different, right? And so if he can do that with the hammer curve, I think you're right. They might decide, like, we really have two eighth inning guys, Avila and Strom. And if the right-hander comes up, we're using Avila and a Strom. If it's right-handers this inning, we're going to Avila. If it's lefties, we're going to Strom, right? Like, I'm fine with that approach, and I think they might ultimately lean on that. But yes, it would be absolutely ridiculous if they brought in some sort of like shut the door back end reliever at some point. Mike, what's the one area they really need to do better as a group in that bullpen?
It's still the walk rate. You said the improved walk rate since April 21st is 12.6%. That's still way too high. Still way too high. Now, bullpens do tend to walk a few more batters than starting rotations do, but you can't give up free base runners, especially when you don't have elite strikeout guys like you and I have mentioned on that back end. You have an elite strikeout guy, like I say, a Yankees bullpen does. They focus real heavy on high strikeout numbers. Okay, you allowed a walk. Well, you're not too worried about that because you have the opportunity to strike out, the next two batters or something. That's not something we're going to be able to rely on. And you and I have talked about this at times when even John Schreiber struggles, or when it was Zerpa, when Angel Zerpa was on the team and he struggled. It was hey, because you can't get a strikeout and you end up putting guys on base, there's always that chance that the ball that even doesn't get hit all that well goes for a hit, and now you're giving up runs. And so you can't give up the free pass. You can't be a low strikeout team and a high walk team. You can have one or the other. You can't have both. And so I would like to see that number get down below 10% for that bullpen.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. That's got to be their number one priority. I think their number two priority has got to be more swing and miss. Obviously, they're bringing in Avila is a move to get that type of swing and miss, but I think they're going to want even more of it. I think they're going to maybe look at bringing in somebody at the deadline who could be that true swing and miss option in the bullpen, especially if Estevez comes back and it looks like he's not going to be as effective as he was last year. Then it's like almost a must that they go out, if they want to compete this year, that they go out and find somebody at the deadline who can come in and get strikeouts for them, who can be a back end option for them? Do they have to get Mason Miller, who won't be available, but like, do they have to get somebody like Mason Miller? No, but they got to get somebody who can really be a consistent swing and miss option for them in the bullpen if they want any sort. Erceg can't do it alone, right? Like, he just can't be the only guy you lean on for that type of thing. Mike, we're talking about Estevez, quite a bit here, and he is has been assigned to a rehab assignment in AAA. That was announced today, so he'll have a rehab assignment soon, and we'll get that AAA data, so we'll get to see how hard.
No hiding now.
No hiding now. We got it. We'll be able to see what that fastball velocity is. Like, how do you think the return of Estevez could impact this bullpen?
Yeah, that's the $10,000 question right there. Because
it's $11 million question.
It's the $11 million question. If he is the Estevez of last year, if the velocity is back up, because the fastball was like his go-to, and I didn't even think he was as good as the numbers said he was last year. But if that's the case, if he's just that again, it could really be a boost to the pen, because it really changes the roles on the back end of the pen. If he isn't, and you bring him back, you may disrupt something that is currently working out okay. That's kind of the danger here. You bring him in and you start pitching him in the ninth, and he's getting, even if it's just like shaky.
JJ did say in his press conference that they may bring him back in a role that is not the closer role. And so there's an option that they bring him back as like, hey,
well, that's not a great indicator of how he's looking, by the way.
I know it's not. He's going to, if he was looking like real dominant, then he probably wouldn't be saying that. But, if he's just replacing a few of the innings that Mason Black might have gotten, that's different.
Maybe that's how you start.
You're in the high leverage situations right away, Carlos. Like,
yeah,
I don't think,
I think that's smart. that gives me that, calms some of my fears that he might come in and just kind of collapse this thing that honestly took him quite a while to figure out in the bullpen. And I don't even know that it is completely figured out now, but I think they've got something that is workable. I didn't want him to come in and be like, let me just take a hatchet to that, because I'm still a closer.
Or I still make a lot of money, right? Exactly. And so, I don't think he's their true swing and miss option. I like his slider, and if his fastball velocity is back into the mid 90s, you feel okay about the production he can give. But even if he's what he was last year, I think they're like, we need someone else too, right? Because what he was last year was not, he had good overall numbers, but you don't love some of what happened there. And you don't think it's like competitive in the playoffs for sure. And you really don't want even Erceg or even Estevez from last year. You don't want him up in the playoffs in a big situation, because he just didn't have the swing and miss stuff that you really associate with a shut the door kind of closer. And that's what it takes to win in those, to win those ALDS series games against teams like the Yankees. Right. And so, I think even if he comes back and he looks somewhat like last year, it would be worth looking for more swing and miss options. Royals Weekly is brought to you by All In Physical Therapy, who don't just offer the best physical therapy in the KC Metro, they also offer the best in summer speed and conditioning programs for youth athletes who want to make big gains this offseason.
Quads for days, bro. Quads for days.
If your child is interested in getting the most out of their athleticism, check out videos of All In's summer speed and conditioning programs on their Instagram feed. And of course, All In always offers the best in physical therapy for post-surgery or athletic injury patients. They offer a personalized one-on-one experience to meet your specific therapy goals.
Doesn't matter how remote either. You can have a muscle tucked into the deepest corners of your body. They will make it work again.
They'll find that muscle and they're ensure it's doing something it's supposed to be doing. Not like most of
It'll be
Mike's
singing.
Muscles.
Yeah, none of mine work.
Learn more about how All In Physical Therapy can get your body on track at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-pt.com. Or give these very nice people a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. All In Physical Therapy, your recovery goals are their number one priority.
I got loose bones.
We get 7 games at home this week against division rivals. I repeat, 7 games at home against division rivals this week for the Royals. They've already spent one of those games because they beat the Cleveland Guardians tonight. What was the final, Mike? Did we get a final update?
6-2.
6-2. So they're coming off a sweep. Now they're going a 4-game winning streak with 3 games left against the Cleveland Guardians of this 4-game series. The Guardians are currently the top of the division. I didn't see what the Tigers did today, and I forgot to update all of these since that game happened. But the Tigers will come in after them, who are tied for the top of the division coming into today. And then the Royals will play a 3-game series against them as well. So a lot of if they sweep the week, they're going to be leading the division. Isn't that wild to think?
Royals Tigers lost today too.
Oh, look at there. Royals are gaining ground. Don't let them back into this. Mike, preview the rest of this Guardian series for us. Let us know what's up there. 18-18 now, by the way. That's what their record is.
I gotcha. So the Cleveland Guardians are currently 18-18, which is still tied for first in the AL Central with the Detroit Tigers. In tomorrow's game, that's Tuesday's game, Noah Cameron will go against Gavin Williams, the 26-year-old righty out of East Carolina. Gavin Williams currently has a 2.70 ERA and a 1.02 whip. Real kind of bounce back so far this year after, I would say, what's kind of a mediocre year last year and some injuries before that. He's got a 4-seam fastball, and the 4-seam fastball has kind of been the thing that has, reignited his season here at the beginning. 96-97 on that with a sweeper, a curveball, a sinker, and a cutter. The fastball is much better this year, but the movement's roughly the same. He's just using it less and mixing in some of the breaking pitches a little bit more. The sweeper is his number one breaking pitch, gets a lot of swing and miss off of that, 46.3% whiff rate for him. He will walk guys, though, at 11.1% for a walk rate. And I believe when the Royals faced them last time, they did take quite a few walks in that game against Gavin Williams, though their offensive success was limited, if I remember correctly.
Probably didn't hit with runners in scoring position, if I had to guess.
If I had to guess on that one, yeah. So be patient and get some opportunistic hits, and I think we'll be okay in that. Noah Cameron at home, we like that a lot better, especially against a Guardians lineup. So game 2, or I guess it's game 3 of the series. This will be on Wednesday. Cole Reagans versus Joey Cantillo, the 26-year-old righty out of Kailua.
He is a lefty.
Did I say righty?
Yes, you did.
Oh, sorry. I meant lefty out of Kailua High School in Hawaii. 3.67 ERA and a 1.40 whip. He's got a 4-seam fastball at 91-92, the changeup, the curveball, and the slider. The changeup is really good, is doing great right now. Everything else is getting hit pretty well. He's got a lead extension in the 94th percentile, so the fastball plays up a little bit. In the first time he played the Royals, he was very good. 5.2 innings pitched, 1 earned run, and he actually looked really dominant in that start, if you remember it. He struck out quite a few guys. The changeup was unhittable for righties. We really struggled in that game against Joey Cantillo. But second chance through, get another chance. You've seen him. Hopefully that produces some offense. In the final game of the series, it will be Seth Lugo versus Slade Saccone. I looked up the pronunciation for that, by the way.
Yeah, I see the phonetic guide there. It's good.
A 26-year-old righty out of the University of Miami. He's a 6.56 ERA with a 1.57 whip, so not great numbers there. 4-seam fastball at 93, a cutter, a curveball, a sinker, and a sweeper. Strikeouts are very few, just a 17.1% strikeout rate. He tries to mix his pitches a lot, doesn't throw anything more than 35% of the time and nothing less than 10% of the time. We'll see from Saccone what he can do against Lugo, who last time he pitched was very good. Now the Guardians lineup knows Seth Lugo very well, but I like our chances in that finale on Thursday.
After that, the Tigers come to town for the 3-game series to end this week. The Tigers are now 18-18 as well, still tied for first in the AL Central with the Guardians. Their offense doing pretty well. Coming into today, they had a 106 weighted runs created plus, which was 6th in Major League Baseball. Getting a great season out of rookie phenom Kevin McGonigal with 149 weighted runs created plus. And then they have some stalwarts in their lineup, a deep lineup. Riley Green's got a 139 weighted runs created plus. Dylan Dingler's got a 128. So they're doing well on the offensive side. They do have a couple guys who are injured maybe right now, but are probably coming back, maybe back by the time the Royals, by the time they come to Kansas City. Gleyber Torres and Zach McKinstry, both dealing with injury issues, but might be back by the time they get to Kansas City. Their pitching staff is interesting, mostly because of the news that got announced today. Tarek Skubal will be down for 2 to 3 months with loose body surgery. He's got loose bodies in his elbow.
I got loose bones. He's got loose floating bodies in his blood, or who knows where.
He won't be pitching in the series against the Royals. In fact, he may not pitch for the rest of the season. As a pitching staff, they've been quite good. 3.81 ERA, ninth in Major League Baseball. That's led by Tarek Skubal, who has a 2.70 ERA. But they're also getting good years from Casey Mize, who's got a 2.90, and Framber Valdez, who has a 3.35. Jack Flaherty is actually the only starter of theirs with an ERA over 4, and it's 5.90. But again, they're going to have to replace Skubal in that rotation, and we'll see who they're able to replace him with. Decent chance to take 2 of 3 from the Tigers at home. Hopefully the Royals can take advantage. Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Word spreading about the hottest realtor in the Phoenix area. This kid's got the know-how. He's got the drive. He's got the thoughtful care to help you secure your dream retirement home. And let's face it, Phoenix is a dream. Sun, golf, baseball.
Maybe head out to the desert, smoke some peyote, and enter the spirit world.
That's where we all want to be. Eric Oxer ranked in the top 3% of agents in all of Arizona for the first quarter of 2026. Why? Because for Eric, it's not about him. It's about you. He's going to spend day and night grinding to find you the house of your dreams and get you the best price for it.
I have some pretty crazy dreams. Okay. Are there houses with gravy moats?
We can make that happen, I think.
Breadstick alligators in there.
Oh, yeah. That sounds fun. Find Eric Oxer of West USA Realty online at ericoxer.com. That's ERICKAUXIER.com. Or just give him a call or shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. That's 480-383-9745. Be wise. If you're ready to make the move, let Eric make the experience all about you. We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode with the Just a Bit Outside segment, where we talk about something that's interesting to us outside the world of baseball. Mike, I don't know if you know this, but we've been getting a flood of fan support for the Just a Bit Outside segment. And so
a flood.
So we're going to ride that wave all the way to more Just a Bit Outside segments. What's been going on for you this last week?
A lot of stuff. So much stuff. I don't generally have busy weeks, guys. I'm a boring man. Okay. But I actually am going to do an honorable mention here real quick. Honorable mention because neither Mark or I put this on there, but both of us experienced it. We went out to the Rock Island Bridge restaurant, bar, outdoor event play space area. Yeah. What event space, whatever it is. And that was a great time. So I will shout that out. That was very good. But the thing I'm doing is a realization to me and this is the reason the episode is a day late for those of you. I was at a concert on Sunday night when Mark and I usually record. And it got me to thinking about, we are so kind of spoiled, I feel like. And now maybe it's like this in all metropolitan areas. I don't know. But such great concert venues in the Kansas City area. The concert I went to on Sunday night was at the Uptown Theater. Just a perfect place for what the concert I was going to. I saw Jason Isbell and the 400 unit perform there. And it was exactly perfect for what that concert was. I've seen shows at the Starlight Theater, which is maybe one of my favorite ones. I saw the Avett Brothers at Starlight one time. No matter what you like in a concert venue, we have them here. You know, we've got T-Mobile if you're into like pop music or larger acts that do national tours. We've got Arrowhead if you're into like the outdoor, huge arenas that like people like Kenny Chesney fill and things like that. We've got, we still got Sandstone or whatever they're calling it now out there in Bonner Springs that, I have no idea what they call it anymore. It was a healthcare thing for a while. I don't know.
That's what Azure is, I think.
Okay. But that's a cool, like you and I have been to a billion concerts out there. Like it seems like there's one for everyone. There's a new one opening up in Parkville. The Morton Salt Amphitheater is getting like massive acts to come through.
Morton Salt moved to Kansas City like a year ago, and they're like taking over the town.
Probably because, when you think salt, there's really only one company
there's
anybody
only one
ever thinks
game in
of.
town.
That's right. But that's just the variety of places we can go is just stunning to me to see live music, and all of them have their own feel, and everybody kind of has the place that they like best to go see things. And, don't take it for granted, guys. Go check out. And I know concert tickets are way too expensive, and Ticketmaster can go just fuck right off. Ticketmaster. They are terrible.
Right up there with the insurance industry.
Yeah. They are
right
absolute criminals. Ticketmaster is, and I know they make ticket prices way too high, but one or two a year, go out and check out some of these awesome concert venues and places where you can see live music here in Kansas City. So real big appreciation one there for that.
Yeah, I agree. I love the fact that it's big and small. It's like that, all sorts of different types of venues for anything you could possibly want. It's wonderful. Sad I couldn't go out to the Isbell concert, probably because the tickets were too expensive. And I did look at them at one point. I was like, nah, I don't want to spend that much money. Hope you had a great time. And so what I'm talking about this week is much more expensive or much cheaper than a concert ticket. And it's actually super valuable too, but also just cool and good. About a month ago or so, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, time is a flat circle and I don't know how to measure it anymore, but I pulled the trigger on a PBS subscription. Now, to get the PBS app, I don't even know that you actually have to pay any money, but they suggest a donation. And I was like, I should donate. They take some money.
They lock down most of the stuff if you don't.
But so
there is some free stuff on there too.
There's free stuff too, right? But I wanted all the access, and I wanted to help support, and that's the real thing. If you don't know, federal funding for public broadcasting is now basically gone, right? There is none, and so all the public broadcasting systems that exist here in Kansas City and everywhere else are basically just running on donations at this point, and that stuff is so valuable. You don't know how valuable it is, but KCUR, for example, is super valuable in all the sort of news that it provides on various things in the Kansas City area, some of which doesn't get covered by anybody else. It's hugely valuable stuff, and it's all donation based at this point. And so if you get a chance, go ahead and give a little bit of $5, $10 or something a month to one of these stations and help them do the valuable work of informing the public and providing entertainment. I watch this PBS television app constantly. Literally my partner and I will put on one of the BritBox shows. They have subscriptions to this British television stuff. And so we'll put one of those on at night and she'll just fall asleep to it because she loves to the way it sounds and just boop, and she's asleep. Right. We use that every night, but I watch a lot of the Ken Burns documentary stuff on there. They get a bunch of nature stuff on there that I love. There's just a bunch of great programming on this PBS thing, and it funds a great cause, and you also get great content for it. I feel like that's the win-win, right? If it funds something that's really good for the community and you're getting a bunch out of it, it's totally worth the $5 or $10. I can eat.
And it's not very much. It's the cheapest subscription service out
way
there.
Way cheaper than Netflix.
And if you have kids, it's great too, because it gives you access to a lot of their kids programming, which is awesome.
Yeah, great educational programming for kids on there. I love this app. I love this service. Give it a shot. Do something good for your community, but also get a ton out of it because they provide such wonderful programming on there. I can't endorse it enough. That's all we have for you this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. By the way, this was our 200th episode, Mike.
Holy crap.
Episode of Royals Weekly. We have now done 200 episodes. Welcome to it. Here's to 3,000 more.
Where's my bonus?
Yeah, it's in the mail. It's in the mail. I promise. We'll be back again next week. Until then, be good to each other.
Hey, go Royals.